My name is Monk Rowe, and we are filming today for the Hamilton College Jazz Archive on the Hamilton campus. I'm very pleased to have Etta Jones, vocalist, with me today. Looking forward to having you visit.
Thank you very much.
Welcome. You're in town for performance with Houston Person.
That's right.
And you guys have a long performing relationship, almost 30 years, is that right?
31 years.
31.
It's like a marriage.
Yeah?
One that works.
Right. Those are the best kind, but not always. They don't always happen. We were just talking, when you guys get your repertory together for certain kind of gigs, do you each bring something to the table? You know, I'd like to do this tune and just work it out? No.
At first, when we first started working together, I used to like maybe write a list, you know. But after a while, that just went to nothing, and Houston started calling the songs because I didn't want to take my break to write lists to sing. And I couldn't think of anything to sing. You know, it got so, you forget what you actually, the
what
songs you
know.
actually do, you
Right.
know. And he can call them in a minute,
Yeah.
so.
I'm
It's
glad you
easy.
said that. I have that same problem, remembering the songs that you know.
Right.
You know, you have to make a list
You
yourself.
really do.
Yeah.
So it worked. So I don't have to do anything but sing.
Do you travel? You said you live in Washington and in New York.
Yes, I have an apartment in Washington, and I get there sometimes twice a year, maybe three times a year,
Yeah.
maybe more. I intend to go down more now because in between jobs, because I said, wait a minute, I've had this apartment over 20 years and I get down so seldom. I decided I'm going to go more often now.
But you probably have to travel quite a bit to
We
work.
do. We do. We work constantly all over the country and out of the country. And I love to travel. So it's okay with me.
You're in the right
Yeah,
profession.
I'm in the right profession.
You know, the last time I saw you was on the Royal Caribbean.
On the cruise.
On the cruise. And our cameraman was there.
Ah.
And we did some interviews, and I wasn't fortunate to find time with you. So this is a real pleasure, and that was a pretty pleasurable gig, I would imagine.
It is, and we have two coming up, two cruises. So I'm looking forward to them.
Yeah. I have to laugh because I see that they do blues cruises too, and I wonder how you can have the blues on a cruise like that,
Right.
you know?
Because you're extremely happy.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like a different world. It's like
Yeah.
no worries, no phones,
Isn't it amazing?
and everyone communicates with each other, and they're so friendly, and
And
I love the cruises.
They know the music pretty well too.
Right,
You know,
yeah.
the people that are on those things.
and they really love the music.
Yeah.
So
Well, you were raised in New York City. You were born in South Carolina, is that right?
Aiken, South Carolina, I was born, but I was raised in New York.
Did the music, as you were growing up, when did you first start being aware of jazz or swing music?
Well, I remember as a 3-year-old, they told me I used to sing the songs from the radio, and as I got a little older, I heard Count Basie and Duke Ellington and Jimmy Lunsford and all those people, and I went to the Apollo to see them, and when I heard Billie Holiday, that was just the end. I just said, oh my God, it was haunting to me. It was just, I just wanted to be a singer. But from a little kid, I used to sing all the time. What I heard, I would sing,
Yeah.
you know. And they would ask me to sing, and at a drop of a hat, I would sing.
No problem. It wasn't like anybody had to force you.
No.
Yeah. When you heard Basie at the time, were those the days with Helen Humes?
Yes.
Yeah.
And Thelma Carpenter worked with him also. I was in love with Thelma Carpenter too. She was my second choice. Like Billie Holiday was my first, and Thelma Carpenter was my second. And of course Helen Hughes and all the rest of them. But she was the one I heard most, Billie Holiday and Thelma Carpenter. And I would go to hear Billie down on 52nd Street. And she was just so amazing to me and so beautiful that I said, oh God, I have to be a singer. I wanted to do it professionally.
I wished I had been able to see her live. You listen to her records and it's a very haunting sound.
You could hear a pin dropped when she sang. I mean, and they would just put a pin spot on her face, and it was just something to see. She was so wonderful.
Her tendency to sing behind the beat at times. Did you think that when the musicians were doing that, did they have trouble with that at first?
I don't think so. Maybe someone would have trouble if they were just new to her. I mean, she was new to them.
Yeah.
Then they'd probably have problems, because they also would say to different people that worked with me, because I have a tendency to lag, and they would say, "How do you sing with her?" You know, so. And at first they would have the problems, and then someone would say, "Just play the song like it goes, and don't even pay her no attention."
Yeah, as a accompanist, you must have feel at first like, I wonder if I should follow.
Right.
Should I slow down too?
No.
And then all of a sudden you got a problem, right?
That's right. Yeah.
So by the age of 15, you had this incident happen at the Apollo.
Yes.
Was it?
My friends talked me into going. They said, "Here's the mic." They got a broom, say, "Here's the microphone, and you stand there. Let me see what you're gonna do." And so I said, "No, I don't want to go." "Oh no, the Apollo," because the Apollo was real scary because they would boo you up in a minute. But anyway, they talked me into going, and I went and I sang, and I did not win. On the contrary to what some folks thought. They almost booed me off, because I started in the wrong key.
What song was it you were singing?
Embraceable You. I'll never forget it. And Doc Wheeler was there. He happened to have a band there. I don't know if you're familiar with Doc Wheeler.
No, I'm not.
And he said, he held up his hand and said, "Give her a chance, give her a chance." And so I started again in the right key, and of course my knees were knocking. I had to try to place my feet down hard to stop from being so nervous. But I got through it, and when I finished, Joe Menon was the male vocalist with Buddy Johnson's band, and he said, "Wait around, he's looking for a vocalist. His sister is having a baby, I said, "Oh no, I can't do that. Oh, I'm scared." He said, "Wait." He was very forceful, "Wait here. He'll talk to you, And so it was another young lady that waited, but she didn't know the songs, and I did from the jukebox, because we were always listening to music and playing the jukebox, dropping nickels, So when he said, Buddy Johnson played the piano and said, "Sing this," and he played "Please, Mr. Johnson." He started it, and I said, "Please, Mr. Johnson." They said, "That's Ella, that's Ella. She knows how to, And that's how I got the job.
Ella was his sister, right?
Ella Johnson was his sister. And that was a Wednesday night, and I left Friday. 2 days
to go on the road?
To go on the road.
At 15?
I didn't even know how to get out of town. But he went and he asked to talk with my mother, and it was summer, so I was out of school. And he asked and said he would be my guardian on the road, and he would watch out for me, and had no need to worry. And she said yes. I said, oh, please, please, oh, please let me go. Oh, I was going to die if I didn't go, you know.
Wow.
So my mother was so wonderful. She let me go.
So that you were playing dance halls,
Right.
small clubs,
Small
that kind
clothes
of thing?
and the theaters. We did the theater in Chicago and the Apollo, of course, when we came back to New York. And then Ella Johnson went back with the band. And then I went to 52nd Street to the Onyx Club. Hot Lips Page took me down there, and the musicians have helped me all through my career. They would say, this one is looking for a vocalist. Etta, you know, you go. And so that was how everything happened for me. Musicians have really been my friends, and very, very dear, and they taught me. I've learned so much from them because I don't read music, and I can kind of sight read how it's gonna go.
Yeah.
If I look at the music, you know, but I don't read at all. But I just, from doing it so long, I imagine, I learned more and more and more through the years. If you don't learn from the years, you need to forget it.
Yeah. Well, I think musicians and accompanists they appreciate a relationship with a singer that's back and forth. You know, that they value when you're learning something from them, and vice versa.
Yes. And I worked with such wonderful musicians, you know, Cedar Walton for a while. I worked with him a lot before I worked with Houston. We used to do a lot of gigs together, you know. So,
Well, just for historical purposes, can you recall what you were making on that first tour? with
I know
Buddy Johnson?
exactly what I was making. I made $50 a week.
Uh-huh.
And we did one night, I got $50 if we worked or we didn't.
Oh, well, that's good anyway.
So I think the guys got like $35 a night. I'm not sure, but I got $50. And you know what? I lost my first pay. I left it on the bar, in the restaurant on the counter. I had a little bag, and we left, and I left the bag there. I guess I was so excited, you know. And so Buddy Johnson took $5 a week out of my $50.
And he said,
to take back, because he gave it back to me. So,
oh, I see.
so I had to pay it back, you know. So I learned a great lesson then.
He's a guy that Buddy didn't perhaps get the recognition that he deserved.
Through the South he did,
Oh,
and in New York, and maybe the big cities like Chicago, New York, and Philadelphia, and those kind of places, I think he did. But through the South, he was very big.
was it different in later years when you would tour different parts of the country, where you met with obviously different kinds of audiences, but what was it like being on the road in different areas of the country?
It was just about this. I think a lot of times the South was more. Well, I was with kind of a blues man, I guess, and he was so popular, so it was. They were like wonderful, you know. Everywhere he went, they greeted him so boisterously, so Ray, you know. I mean, they really liked Buddy Johnson. He was really a big band leader in that time, but a lot of people don't seem to even remember him or know of him today. But he was a very big band leader.
And you worked on and off with him in later years too?
No, I worked with, well, we happened to be thrown at the same theater at the same time, but I never was with the band anymore.
Yeah.
But we were in Chicago later, after I had Don't Go to Strangers, and we worked together, and he was so happy for me, because he was an extremely nice man. I happened to have very nice bosses, Because Earl Hines was wonderful.
Uh-huh.
And J.C. Hurd was a wonderful boss for me.
Yeah. That's fortunate because it could have gone the other way.
It could have.
Yeah.
Because I've heard stories that I don't care to repeat. That
Right.
some of the band leaders were kind of rough.
Uh-huh.
But I always managed to get the nicest people.
In the theaters that you played in those days, was that the situation where they would show movies?
Yes.
And you would play
Yes.
a few times during the day?
Yeah. Sometimes we would be on call as soon as we got off the stage because it would be 6 shows a day at the Apollo. Sometimes they said half an hour is in, so that meant you had half an hour before you started all over again to get yourself together.
And could the audience stay there all day?
They could stay all day.
How much did it cost to get in? Do you recall?
Maybe 35 cents. Maybe 35 cents.
Wow. That's great.
Yeah. And 2 movies and a short and a chapter and and the news, everything.
And great music.
Great music.
Wow. Now, when your first opportunity to record came up, you had kind of an interest, if my facts are correct, it was kind of an interesting combination of people. Was it Leonard Feather?
Leonard Feather. The pianist didn't show up, so Leonard Feather had
Oh.
to play piano.
Okay.
And it was Georgie Earl on tenor, and it was the bassist was his son is named Pickles. Was named, I can't think of his name right now, but it was all top-notch musicians. And Georgie Earl on tenor, and clarinet was
Was it Barney Bogard?
Barney Bigard. Yeah, help me.
I'm
You
trying.
know.
I'm trying.
Barney Bigard, and drums was Stan Levy. You know Stan Levy?
I don't-
Did you know?
Oh, Stan Levy.
Stan
Yes.
Levy.
Okay.
And I can't think of the bass player. Very well-known bass player too.
Wasn't Milt Hinton.
No.
Okay. He's always a good guess because he played on so many records, you got a 50% chance.
Yeah.
And this was for what label? Or was it for a label?
Oh. Black and White.
Uh-huh.
It was for Black and White. And then I got a chance to record with National and RCA Victor and I think Decker. Some of them I've forgotten,
Yeah.
the labels I was on.
Were you paid a flat fee for the recording?
Yes.
Were you in the union? Were the vocalists in the union?
No.
Okay.
Not when I first recorded, no.
So you were paid a flat fee, and after that, you pretty much didn't expect to get anything.
I think
from
they
the
gave me a
records.
contract for a penny or a half a cent, or I
Uh-huh.
don't remember, but after they sold 900,000 records, oh.
So you really couldn't
Yeah, you-
expect too much from that.
And
It was-
they stuck me with $50 all the time. I mean, I would get $50 for 4 sides
Oh.
in those days,
Uh-huh.
for 2 records.
Yeah.
It's like $25 a
Right,
record.
right. Gee. And these were 78s,
Right,
and so you had one tune on each side.
yes.
And they had to be, they couldn't be too long either.
No,
Yeah.
because I think, what was it, 3.5 minutes
Yeah.
or something like that.
Yeah. Was your mother happy with your
Oh.
career?
Yes, very.
It's nice to
yes.
hear.
I think she was very proud.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I assume that you got to meet Billie Holiday.
I met her
Eventually.
at least 3 times.
Uh-huh.
Once in Chicago, she was leaving after one of the shows, a break, probably going somewhere to eat, and they introduced me to her, and I was just in heaven. And she had this big white fox fur on and a big flower like how she Oh, she was so beautiful. And I was just, my heart almost stopped beating. And then when I was at the Onyx Club on 52nd Street, she was working across the street. And they must have told her, this little girl over here that's working over here sounds like you. And she came and she stood by the cash register. I could see her over there, you know, listening. And I don't know what she said or anything.
Yeah.
But I was just, I don't know why I wasn't so nervous, you know, because when I met Thelma Carpenter, I asked her, do you hear any of you in me? And she said, maybe. I wanted to ask Billie Holiday, do you hear any of, because I mean, she was my idol, so
Yeah.
whatever I sang probably sounded like her.
But did you consciously say, you know, I'm going to sing this like I think Billie would
No.
sing it? Okay.
It just came out like
Yeah,
that, and
yeah.
then people say they still hear it now, but
Mm-hmm.
now they say I came through it.
Mm-hmm.
And I figure if you're a singer and you like someone, you're going to sound something like them until, especially when you first start. And then after that, you will come out of it yourself into your own self. You know, you might have still a little of them here and there, but you'll have your own,
Yeah.
your own thing.
Well, you have to learn from somewhere.
Yes,
You have to have
yes.
something to aspire to, and I think it's the same for saxophone players.
Right.
And, you know, find an influence and then move on.
Yes.
Well, you recorded on this particular record. This was the follow-up to one of your, I think, when you had "Don't Go to Strangers." I think this was the record to follow it.
Does that have "Through a Long and Sleepless Night" on it?
Yes, it does.
It might have been.
Yeah.
It might have been.
In fact, I was going to refresh your memory here.
Love is the pain. While others fight for power, we can walk among the flowers.
I think Nancy Wilson listened to you.
You think so?
I think so. When I hear that, yeah, I really.
Life is a thing that's free.
It's beautiful.
Love for you and me.
You were on Prestige for quite a while.
Quite a while.
Yeah. Now, when you recorded that, I'm always curious.
And thank you for what you said when you said beautiful.
You're welcome. Don't Go to Strangers, Don't Go with Strangers was a really nice hit for you. At that time, what do people consider a hit? How many records or?
Well, I got a gold record
Yeah.
for that one,
Yeah.
so I don't know exactly in terms of numbers, but I was always under the impression that when you sold 1 million copies or close to it,
Yeah.
you got a gold record. I don't know if that's true or not,
Right.
but I do have a gold record for Don't Go to Strangers. And I tried to do that song for 10 years, but it wasn't commercial, they said. Each time I would want to put it on an album. That's not commercial, you know, because they always think they know what might go and what might not go, but you never know. You will never know. Something, it just went. I guess the people were ready for something that they could relate to. Don't Go to Strangers people started saying it as like a little saying, you know,
Right.
Don't go to strangers, you know, I mean, it was just, I'm glad I didn't do it 10 years ahead of time, because maybe it wouldn't have been,
The timing was
the
right
timing
somehow.
was right. And so all of a sudden, I went from $50, here we go, $50 a weekend to $750 a weekend. I mean, it just started to, you know,
Wow.
it was frightening. I just couldn't stand it. I couldn't stand all the attention, you know, it just, how would you like your hair? How would you like to do? It was bugging me. I'm not a person that likes a lot of fanfare.
Yeah,
you know.
for people to wait on you.
And no, they
let
said, well,
your-
let me help you. But I said, wait a minute, I can put my own shoes, you know.
Yeah.
Let me pick, no, thank you, but, you know, so I think now if I had a big hit again, I could deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I would know how to handle it, but then it was very trying.
Yeah, and you were how old then?
I think I was I 28? Something like that.
It was around 1960,
it was
wasn't
59.
it? 59.
And what it really it developed in 60, really,
Yeah.
when they started playing on it was coming out of the stores, it was on the jukebox. And a friend of mine came and he said, your record is on the jukebox. I said, get out of here. Don't tell me that. He said, yeah, come on, let's go. I'll let you see. And when you get on the jukebox and they're playing it and you hear it coming from record stores,
You know that.
you know that you got something going.
Yeah, and you weren't even aware that it was happening.
I wasn't aware.
Wow.
But I heard Symphony Sid play it and Mort Figa on the radio, and I said, wait, I thought maybe it's just going to be played once or twice, you know, but they started playing it, and they started, I couldn't believe it.
Oh.
I was so grateful, and so, because it meant travel, it meant better clubs, it meant more money,
Yeah.
you know, but the money wasn't really that important to me. I mean, I just loved to sing so much, and I wanted to get paid. I mean, it's
Yeah.
not unimportant.
Sure.
I wanted to get paid a decent salary, and I wanted to work in a decent place. And so the record afforded me that. It really gave me, and one thing about going on the road and having something to make people know you, you get to have a lot of friends. I have friends across the country. I had so many keys to so many
People's houses and
people's
apartments.
houses. When I said that one time, I said, oh, wait a minute now. I had keys to families, you know, not
Yeah.
keys to
Oh, yeah, right.
not keys to different guys. you
Right.
know. But it made me have so many friends, and I'll never forget this singing business for that. I have so many across the country.
That's great. You had some.
And they wait till I come. She's coming next week, or she'll be here. They start calling each other, you know. And I have friends that never see each other until I come.
And
then they all
everybody-
get to.
That's terrific.
So it's really nice.
Yeah,
I love my job.
yeah.
I really do.
And you get to associate. I mean, like, and that particular record, you had Frank West and
Oh,
Roy Haynes.
Roy Haynes, yeah.
Good company.
I had George Duvivier
Yeah.
on bass on that.
Yeah. Wow. And you've worked with a lot of good tenor players too.
Yes.
Maybe not starting with Houston, but
With Gene Ammons.
Gene Ammons.
With Sonny Stitt, alto and tenor.
Uh-huh.
With what's his name? Let's see, I'm gonna get a blank now. Illinois.
Oh.
I worked with Illinois Jacquette. I worked with I can't think. I'm getting a blank here.
Lots of.
But lots of
them.
wonderful tenor players.
Yeah. Can you think of something that a piano accompanist would do that you would have to ask him not to? Have you ever had situations where you need to instruct the piano player? Well, you've been pretty lucky then.
No, I don't do it. Even if it's something, no, I don't do it.
Oh,
I don't tell the drummer, I don't tell the bass, I just,
you deal with what
with what,
that they
yeah.
play. Yeah.
Houston will tell them, like since I'm with Houston, don't do that, don't do stop that, you know? But I don't. And I never turn around.
Uh-huh.
If something goes wrong, I'm not gonna turn around.
Yeah.
I'm just going to go like smile on through.
Sure. Well, why broadcast it to the audience, right?
Right.
Because a lot of times the audience will not be aware.
And
of
sometimes
what
I
you
do
are.
something wrong, and when Cedar and I were together, I'd say, "What did I do that was wrong?" Because I know he knows the music better than I do. He said, "No, that was me, Etta. I did so." I said, "No, I think I did that." I would never, even though if it's something happened, I don't want them to think, well, I know they know more about the music than I do, because they read music, they play it. All I do is feel it, and I kind of know 4 bars from 8 bars from the when and different things like that. But I tell the teacher what's wrong. You know, if you don't really know. But if something is, I just try to deal with it. If something is wrong, I just try. I said, no, I'm not going to tell them. I don't want to get into that part of it. When I'm working with someone that I haven't worked with, I'll tell them, like, just don't listen to me, just play what you want to play, and just go ahead, and, you know, that's what I do. But I never, like, I feel like I'm chastising them, and I don't want to do that.
Yeah. Well, you must be a pleasure to work with.
I try to be. I try.
What have been some of your favorite places to play outside of the country?
Well, I like San Francisco very much, and I used to love to work Kimball's. You've heard of Kimball's, have you?
No, I guess I haven't.
But that was a nice club. I used to like to go there and work. And Philadelphia was always one of my places to work. I had lots of friends that loved my music there. And I like the Tavern on the Green, working there, because it's so plush.
Really?
Yeah. And after working a lot of dives for so many years here and there, although they're fine with me too, I want to work, so.
Yeah.
But it's extra special, and it's very, very nice when you work someplace like Tavern on the Green. So that was one of my favorite places.
Yeah. This is usually a hard question, but can you think of some of the nastiest places you've played, and why were they nasty?
Oh, I wouldn't say.
You wouldn't say it?
No. You can see I'm a cream puff sitting over here next to you. No, I wouldn't say.
Okay. Just tough joints, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some of them were real tough, where the bathrooms are not together,
Yeah.
and, you know, and
Yeah.
that type of thing. The people were nice, but the surroundings were,
Right. When you traveled down into the South, was the audience that you would play for racially segregated?
Yes. When I was with Buddy Johnson's band, they had a rope down the middle of the dance hall, and the black was on one side and the white was on one side. But they all seemed to be enjoying themselves. And I went in a liquor store one time down there, and they had a rope down the middle of the liquor store. But all the money was going into one cash register. So, but I didn't see too much of that, just while I was with Buddy Johnson's band, because I didn't travel that much in the South. And I didn't live in the South. My mother left when I was 6 months old, she said. So I didn't come across any of that until I went with Buddy Johnson's band.
Yeah. Were you prepared for that at all? Or
It was just strange.
Yeah.
It was strange, but we had no conflicts, no. The only time we were traveling one time, after I got Don't Go to Strangers, and it was the middle of the night, and we was in Tipton, I think it was Tipton, Georgia. And so my pianist was with me, and my fella that drove for me and everything at that time. And they stopped at this place. It was in the middle of the night. It was like a little side restaurant on the side, and they were going in to get some food. And they said, come on, Ed. I said, I'm not going. This was 50, 60, you know, everything was still going on, you know. So I said, I'm not going in. So Walter says, well, if you dress nice and you got your shirt and your tie, and it won't be nothing, you know. So I said, I'm not going in. So who stayed outside with me? Oh, my pianist stayed outside. And my manager and Walter went in. And when they went in there, they came out telling me what happened. They said, the woman said, you can't come in here. You can't. And he said, everybody turned around at the bar. She said, go around to the back. But there was no back. So anyway, they came out. I said, see, you talking about if you dress nice. I said, no, I'm not going in, which I avoided that.
Yeah.
But they told me what happened, you know. So they didn't want him in there. And I figured as much, you know. We knew what happened in the South, I mean, at that time, you know. So I wasn't taking any chances. That's the only thing I know of that happened.
That's fortunate that was just the one incident, I
One
guess,
incident. That's all you know.
How did the thing with your tenure with Earl Hines come about?
Well, I was working in Harlem on 145th Street, and the vocalist that was with him, Dave Tyler, that had worked with Earl at that time, and he was getting ready to go on the road with him. But he said that Earl was looking for a female vocalist also. So he said, I'll take you down to meet him, and he'll audition you and let you sing. And so I said, okay, thank you. And we went down, and he auditioned me. I think I sang, I Fell in Love with You, Them Their Eyes, you know. So he said, okay, can you go on the road? And he hired me. So, and I felt so bad because he hired me, and then he left Dave Tyler. He said, you'll join us after.
Oh.
And he never came with the band. And I stayed 2.5 years, almost 3 years with Earl.
Wow.
And I felt very bad. But I was very grateful to him for taking me.
Yeah.
So Earl was a wonderful guy. But near the end of his life, he had forgotten me. I went by to see him, and when he had the band, and Marva Josie was the vocalist with him, and he looked at me and he said, "You're part of my family." He said, "Are you some of my family?" So I said, "No, don't you remember me? I'm Etta, you know." And he just thought he knew I was so familiar, but he thought I was part of his family. And I read the bass player that was with us, Peter Martin Weiss, for my birthday, he bought me Earl's biography. And I read a page in there, and it said, Etta Jones was a cross between Ella Fitzgerald and somebody else, I can't remember, but I have the book at home. He said, it's too bad she changed her style. He was thinking I was Etta James then. Oh. He said, it's too bad I changed my style and went into rock and roll.
Oh, gee.
So he had remembered me, but he remembered me wrong.
I see.
Yeah.
Yeah. I bet that's happened more than once.
Oh, God.
You know, I take that as a yes.
Yes.
Gee.
They introduced me on the radio, and now we have Etta James, and the people in the front row said, Jones,
Yeah.
you know, they be telling.
Oh.
But it happens to her also, because
Yeah.
she was working in San Francisco, and somebody hollered, don't go to strangers. And she said, oh, did you come to see Etta Jones? I'm so sorry, because I'm the other one, you know.
Yeah.
So she had a little speech that she used to say, you know, about she sings this way, and she sings the soft stuff, and I sing the other, you know, something like that. I don't know exactly, but they were telling me, you know. But they took pictures of us one time. We were on the same show together in Chicago. And so Ebony, I think it was Ebony, came, and they took pictures of us. They gave us dueling guns. And I had my gun in her nose, and she had it. And someone gave me the picture, and someone stole it from me,
Oh,
so
dear.
I don't have it anymore. But probably if I wrote to Ebony, or maybe I could get that picture
How long
again.
ago was that?
It was in probably 61.
Uh-huh.
61, something like that. We were at the Regal Theater together, and they came. And then they had us back to back with our guns up in there. And they wrote, "It's going to be hotter backstage than it is on stage," with the two Ettas back there, you know.
Yeah.
But we were friends. I
Yeah.
mean,
Of course.
you know, I don't dislike her, and I'm sure she doesn't dislike me. But you know, we talk to each other, and
Yeah.
but our paths don't cross that much. But she's a wonderful singer to me with what she sings, and
Yeah.
we're so different. I don't know how they mix us up.
Do you enjoy singing like straight blues songs?
Yes, sometimes,
Yeah.
yeah. And I love ballads,
Yeah.
and I like them all. I like the swing tunes too, and I like blues. And I think that's how Leonard Feather heard me, as a blues singer.
Mhm.
When I was working someplace, I don't remember, at the Onyx Club. And that's when he got me my first record date. He came by and he said, he would like to record me, and I was like, "Are you kidding?"
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd love it.
Yeah.
And that was the beginning of my recording career too.
How long did you have to make a record? A couple
We had
hours, a few hours?
3 hours. I think it was 3 to 4 hours. I think at that time, if you went into 4 hours, there was a little overtime. I think it was just 3 hours they would allot to you for recording. Of course, if you didn't get it, they would go a little longer. But that's what it was.
Were you able to, especially in the early days, say, "Look, that take, I didn't feel good about that. Can we do it again?" Or
Yes.
was it kind of the producer would say?
You know, you could say,
Yeah.
and they could hear,
Yeah.
and you could hear when it was wrong. So, in those days, everybody was in the same room together, and they always told you to go through, even if it was bad. Just go on through, because you might salvage something. It might not be as bad as you thought it was, you know. And they would ask you to keep on. But sometimes it was so bad you'd forget something and you'd just stop. And
Have you done, in more recent years, with the headphones, singing to something that's already been recorded?
or like overdubbing.
Overdubbing,
Yes, I've
yeah.
done some of that.
Did it take a while to get used to that? Did you like it at first? Or was it not that big a deal?
No, it was like singing, because you hear the music so forcefully
Yeah.
in your ears that
Uh-huh.
it's like, you know, being there.
Mhm.
But I'd rather do it when we're doing it, because everyone is there, and
Right.
but sometimes you have to overdub.
Uh-huh. Well, I wanted to ask you, we had mentioned that you have a birthday coming up,
Ah,
and you said 2 of them.
yeah.
So,
Well, this is the story on that. I went to Japan with Art Blakey in 69, I think it was it was 69 going into 70. It was New Year's Eve when we were flying, but before I got my passport, I sent away for my passport, and it was taking so long, and I was wondering, well, what's wrong? What's happening? So I was born November the 25th, 1928. When I got the passport, I was born October the 15th, 1927. That's what they said. Now, my mother told me my date. I believe my mother, but for legal things, I have to take October the 15th, 1927. The only reason I remember the date is because it's my girlfriend's birthday, my best girlfriend, it's her birthday. So we used to celebrate hers and then celebrate mine, you know. So October the 15th, unless I would have had to refer to it to
Wow.
remember what it was,
Yeah.
you know. So that's how I got to. So when we were on a cruise in October one time, they came, happy birthday to you. I said, well, they were coming to me.
Yeah.
And I said, because they know the dates, you know, from
Sure.
your passport. And I said, I wasn't born. And then I said, oh, yeah.
Okay.
So that's how I got the 2 dates. But I still say my mother is right. I don't know. Well, you know, I was born in the South and by a midwife.
Mm-hmm.
So they didn't, I don't know how they could have gotten that confused like that, but they didn't care in those days that much, I don't think.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
but I'll take the 2
2
birthdays. It's not, it's not bad.
Yeah. Can you think of a tune or tunes that you've been singing almost from the start of your career that you still do?
I'm trying to think.
How about Embraceable You?
I didn't sing that anymore.
Yeah.
I think it was The Masquerade is Over. I still do that sometime,
Yeah.
or Ghost of a Chance.
Uh-huh.
And although it seems like I've been singing some of these songs all my life, you know.
Do you still do Don't Go
Don't
to
Go to
Strangers?
Strangers, oh yes.
Yes.
They still ask for that, and
Yeah.
I say, oh God. But you know what? I was so happy to get that song that it pleases me when I do it,
Yeah.
because I would still be
Doing some dives
right,
that we won't talk about.
okay.
Those kind of places. What are there people out, new jazz singers that you enjoy these days? Do you get a chance to listen much?
I don't hear them too much, but I like Vanessa Rubin.
Mhm.
Are you familiar with her?
Yes.
And I still like Lorez Alexandria. Are you familiar
No.
with? But she's not a new singer.
Uh-huh.
But Della Griffin, have you
Yes,
heard
I've
her
of
stuff?
Yeah.
That's my sister-in-law.
No
She's
kidding.
not, she's just new recording, and she's been singing a long time, but they're just beginning to hear her. But she's a very wonderful singer, so I like her. And there's a young lady called, her name is Gania Green, but I don't know if she's recorded yet or not.
Uh-huh.
But she's very good. I know you're speaking of, probably you're speaking of Diane Reeves, and
Mhm.
I'm not too familiar with them.
Yeah.
Diane Reeves and Krall.
Diana Krall.
Krall,
Yeah.
I'm not familiar
Yeah.
with. And someone other singer, they asked me, did I hear, I can't think of her name, but
Do you have any feelings about the state of jazz music today and the future of it?
I think it's gonna go on and on as long as, I believe as long as people can understand it and understand what you're playing and pat their feet to what's going on, and if they could dance, it would be much better. It's gonna always be around. There are gonna be people that still, when they talk about jazz, people think it's something they can't understand, or it's going to be so out that but it's not. It's not like that. If they give it a chance, they would know it's beautiful music.
Mhm.
And when I came up singing, you had to hear every word. I mean, you couldn't sing it right. You had to hear, you don't love me. And you couldn't take breaths. I mean, like, you couldn't hear that on a record when, like, I fell in love with you the first time. That was a no-no. They said, what are you doing in there? I said, okay, I'll calm down. They said,
Yeah.
I fell in love with you the first time I looked into them, their eyes. I would take them down. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, they didn't want to hear, but now I hear all kind of breathing. But, and if you said a word and they didn't understand, you had to do it, you know, you'd have to record again.
Mm-hmm.
What are you saying back there? You know, now you don't have to even hear the lyric,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
I think that's very well said. I think, you know, the music has seemed to move more towards just the rhythm end of it.
Right.
And the rhythm has gotten louder.
And the voice.
Yeah.
And a story, when you're singing a ballad, people should get the meaning of what that story is about. If it's a love story and you love someone, you're supposed to make it, I love you. You know, you're supposed to let the person know that you're singing to someone that you love.
Mm-hmm.
Or if it's a little ditty, it's supposed to be happy, then you sing,
Yeah.
but you still should understand what the person is saying. I'm not saying be overbearing with it, but
Uh-huh.
it should be understood.
Yeah.
Because I said, sometimes I said, what did she say? You know? And I won't name no names.
Just, well, great. When I'm listening to tomorrow night, I know I'll understand all the words. At any rate.
I'll kill myself if you don't.
No, please don't. Houston was talking about how he'd love to see people dancing again.
I do too. So when I came up, we were dancing to all Count Basie and Jimmy Lunsford and Andy Kirk and, you know.
Yeah, I think the musicians
and
got
Benny
off on that
Goodman
too.
and, you know, Stan Kenton. We would, you know, I'd go down to the Paramount downtown to see Stan Kenton, and I mean, we almost wanted to get up in the aisles, and sometimes they would do that. Get up in the aisles and, you know, but now.
What about the Savoy? Did you ever get to the
Oh, yeah, I
Savoy?
went to the Savoy all
Yeah.
the time.
Yeah.
I used to put my age up and go. One time my girlfriend and I went, and she said a date, and I said another date. He said, get out of here. He wouldn't let us in.
Gotcha.
Where were you born? Where were you born? She said 19, and I said 19. He said, go.
Ah.
But we used to go.
Uh-huh.
After a while, they knew us, and they would let us in. So I'd see all the Lucky Millinder, all the bands there.
And did they have the two bands?
Two bands.
Sometimes?
Savoy Sultans would be there,
Yeah.
and the main band it was really nice.
And they would take turns.
Yeah, it was continuous music and continuous dancing. It was wonderful.
I'm curious about when you, in the early days of not that much amplification, did you ever have trouble hearing yourself, or did the musicians adjust?
They adjust. Yeah, they would get, when they can't hear you, they want to get down lower because it's hard to play behind somebody and you can't hear them.
Yeah.
And it's hard to sing when you can't hear yourself or play because you want to force yourself. You want to make us, and you'll say, I'm not going to try too hard, but you will.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll get hoarse or you'll ruin your chops when you're
Yeah.
playing something. So you need to hear what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't hear what you're doing, sometimes you go out of tune. You must hear. That's why the monitor is so important.
Yeah. Well, it's really been a pleasure talking with you, and I wonder
I
if I
loved it.
haven't asked you anything that you'd like to.
It's easy
add it all.
talking to you. And sometimes when I get started, you got to shut me up.
Doesn't sound like that you guys have too much trouble finding work these days.
No.
You're working a lot.
If there's a job anywhere, Houston will find it.
Wow. Well, it's nice to have someone taking care of that end of the
Oh.
business. And
When we started working together, that was really wonderful for me
Mhm.
because I don't have to worry about a thing.
yeah,
He's like my brother, my father, my husband.
Uh-huh.
Only he's not my husband.
Right.
People say, are they married? We've been saying, yeah. I say, yeah, we're married, but to two different people. Because they've married us all over the country.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So,
Great.
but he's wonderful. He's been very good for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope I've been good for him.
I think so. Like I could tell. From just talking
Oh,
about
thank you.
Well, it's been a great pleasure, and I wish you the best in both your birthdays coming up.
Okay.
And I hope you have a great cruise.
Thank you so much. Are you going to be on this cruise?
I don't think so. Tim, can we go on this cruise?
You should.
That was a slice of heaven.
Oh.
I mean, I have to tell you that I agreed with you. It was like being in another world.
That's what it is.
Just going from room to room, hearing all these great artists.
Oh,
And
yeah. And having people cut your lettuce up and all.
That is
I mean.
yeah, something to look forward to.
Okay. It was very nice, Mom.
Okay.
I enjoyed talking with you.
Thanks so much.